Hello, hi, and welcome again to the Terminal Podcast, where in the end, it's all about the numbers. This is a show about baseball, winning season, and even as Cinco de Mayo es solamente cuatro días, it's not always baseball season. I am your host, and we are broadcasting high above Civic Center Station in downtown Atlanta, and tonight, class is in session. There are three guests here to answer questions from a new class at the university because your views about sports are trash, and I've got three people to back me up. We'll go around the room from left to right on my screen. So when asked, let me know where you're calling from and who has the best home field, home court advantage just in sports in general. Kenny?
Hey, this is Kenny calling from McDonough, and my answer is the Mecca, Madison Square Garden.
Okay. Ed?
My name is Ed Molina. I'm calling for Brooklyn. I'm gonna go the soccer route and say Azteca Stadium in Mexico.
Hmm.
All right.
And Rashawn?
That's a good call. This is Rashawn. I'm calling from College Park, home of the G League Skyhawks. Uh, and I'm gonna say LSU football at night.
Okay. All right. Well,
Nice.
for those new to class, each question will have four choices. Each question presented to my guests will have four choices. Each scholar already has their answer, and after the tally is done, anyone in the minority will have a chance to defend their selection. After they have their say, those in the majority will choose someone to explain why they're wrong, and debate will continue until a consensus is determined for a final answer. Sounds simpler, a lot simpler than me trying to say those words. So let's start class. The first question is about one of my favorite films of all time. Major League is just it's perfection. It's a baseball season, it's comedy, it's complete silliness, and it works start to finish. Um, who had the best season in that fictional movie that I love so much? Of the four, now there are plenty of characters to choose from, but of the four of these four, Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn, Jake Taylor, Roger Dorn, or Willie Mays Hayes. Of those four, which had who had the best season? I'll go Rashawn.
I'm gonna say Willie Mays Hayes.
Penny.
I like this question a lot, and I bounce back and forth between Willie Mays Hayes and Ricky Vaughn. And the deciding factor for why I'm going with Ricky Vaughn is because not only was he able to transform himself from an erratic pitcher to top relief pitcher in the league, but he also found time to hook up with Roger Dorn's wife towards the end of the season. So my answer is Ricky Vaughn.
Ed, Ed, who you got?
I've been kicking this one around. I like all four, but I'm gonna go with Jake Taylor actually.
Interesting, interesting. Well, you Kenny, you've made your argument for Ricky Wild thing. Ed, your argument for Jake, you said Jake Taylor, right?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Jake Taylor,
I
who was having who was in a Mexican league with two prostitutes when he got the call to get called up to Cleveland. I'm thinking about that today. It's like that's the call up. He's yeah. Anyway, so go ahead and tell me why you had the best season.
I think with Jake Taylor, it's one of those things where he kind of he grew into the leadership role. You know, it's he's not a leader by any stretch. Like you said, he was in the Mexican League. He got the call up, and the team needed that center that to gravitate to that one guy, that locker room presence, and he was that guy. He was the glue guy in a lot of ways. Maybe he wasn't as talented as Dorn or as Wild Thing or as Willie Mays Hayes, but I think watching his growth and leadership, as much of a comedy as it was, I thought that was pretty cool. And I think he understood that, this is it. If this don't work out, he's back in Tijuana, like, throwing games for the Mexican cartel. So yeah.
For Sean, you said Willie Mays Hayes,
I
right?
did, I did, but Linnell convinced me with his with this extracurricular.
Ricky, yeah. All right. Well, I did a little research on this. Of the four players, Wild Up, Willie supposedly, once again, internet research, supposedly batted 294 with about 47 stolen bases, would have been a top three in the league that year with Ricky Henderson and Vince Coleman uh, at that time. Um, Roger Dorn probably hit about 272 with about 86 RBIs, about third base, solid defense at third base, a quality season. Jake Taylor is above like just above replacement level. He's probably hitting 212 at best,
Yeah.
but he does beat out the bunt, and he gets Rene Russo, and that's Rene Russo, right? Early Rene Russo, just post cover
Ooh.
of Vogue model Rene Russo,
Yeah.
just started acting career, and well before Thomas Crown Affair. So
Prime Rene
we're getting
Russo.
into when we're getting into Rene Russo. Yeah.
Yeah, not to be
Yeah.
trifled with.
But
And he had to win her over. It wasn't like a gimme. Like he used this superstar athlete card.
yeah, that
She moved on. She moved on to some like smart, arty, like intellectual dude too. So he really had to work for that.
Yeah, he did.
Legit.
I'm not gonna suppose because those that Tijuana scene, there's two females that he throws her off as he gets on there, so it might just be something where Taylor is swinging something that little man couldn't do the same thing. Ricky Vaughn supposedly would have gone 12-7 because he's a starter. That's the other thing. He comes out of the bullpen for that game, but Ricky Vaughn is a starter, so he probably went 12 and
Oh,
7,
okay.
3.99 ERA, 177 strikeouts and 184 innings. Once again, half-ass internet research. Shout out to Bill Simmons, but yeah, that. But so Ricky Vaughn, is that enough for you? Because Ed, right now you're in the minority, right? Because both Rashawn and Kenny are on Ricky Vaughn, right? And he does sleep with Roger Dorn's wife,
Yes,
which
he
is
does.
I
yeah,
gotta
it's
be
like
honest. I got swayed to Willie Mays Hayes because much like
with
Ricky
fictional
Vaughn, like
stats.
yeah, with the fictional stats, because you got to understand, we don't even know where Willie Mays Hayes came from. At least with Dawn, we know he was already in the league. Jake was in Tijuana. Vaughn was in jail. We don't even know what Willie Mays Hayes was doing before this. Like
Yeah,
he could have been dealing drugs. He could have been working a minor league. He could have been a pitching instructor. Like it's a wide scope of what was to just jump into the league and do what he did. So there is
yeah.
that aspect.
I now they are half-assed. A 294. If he's batting 294 with those stolen bases, he'd have been an all-star. But I mean, he does, and granted, he does end the American Express car. Don't leave home without it. He's the closer in that. So it would,
Yeah, he
if he is
is.
the all-star, then that would make a little bit of sense. But I'm gonna Ricky Vaughn is it's the start of something. The fact that Charlie Sheen's still plugging away, like he had a super long career that's just like, really, that dude? Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
All right.
well. Same thing with Charlie Sheen. The fact that he's still alive,
That's
like,
my
just
point. That's
yeah,
that's
like
my point.
Yeah.
forget that he was the highest paid sitcom guy at one point. The fact
You're
is he's
there.
still alive.
You're there back in the 80s when he's doing this. He's got this. Is it Platoon? What I mean, he's in a couple of heaters
Yeah.
back then.
Young Guns. He was
And
Yes.
in Young
Young
and
Guns.
oh, that's
Guns.
right. I completely
Yeah, good.
forgot about Young Guns. So the coke's already flowing from there that he then makes it into the 90s to become the highest paid sitcom guy is while he's still alive. That he's
And he
still
was
alive now.
a nepo baby. So it's like he was
That
railing
too.
lines, doing
Oh,
lines like at
absolutely.
the
Oh
age of
yeah.
10,
Yep.
like
Right.
Stuck
so.
with and stood on the Sheen part of it as well. Not going Estevez or whatever. So all right. Well, I'm gonna move on. And unfortunately, because we could debate this ever, and I left Serrano out because that's a whole different conversation.
Ah, it's my guy.
Yeah, that's my guy too.
Different conversation. But this has all been a big what if, and the late 20th century had a ton of basketball what ifs. Here are four, and they're just a four random. Uh, Anthony Penny Hardaway, Grant Hill, Larry Grandmama Johnson, and Drazen Petrovic. Kenny, who you got?
Penny, easily.
Penny,
Anthony Hardaway.
Ed,
Drazen Petrovic.
Rashawn,
Yeah, I was torn between Grant and Penny, but I'm gonna have to go Penny.
Ed, would you like to explain Drazen Petrovic to those that don't know? As a Jersey boy, I'm so this is almost like a heartfelt, but go ahead.
I think Drazen was that cold-hearted sniper on par with a Reggie Miller, on par with a Ray Allen. And that's the thing. We never got to see him blossom into that because of the car accident he was in Europe. I think also to that, what if I think the explosion of NBA basketball in Europe would have happened a lot faster because he was multilingual. He could communicate in many languages. He's a marketing and advertiser's dream. And I've heard stories of Reggie Miller saying, "Is that man would trash talk me in 3-4 different languages?" And so that kind of personality, that kind of charisma, he was that guy. I think he changes the scope of the whole coming of Europeans coming to the US. It would have changed the dynamic of NBA basketball a lot earlier than today, where we have your Lucas and Beads and Giannis.
And to that, it would have been because I grew up in northern New Jersey, where the Nets at that point, where the New Jersey Nets were playing at that point, and that team for 1 year was Kenny Anderson, Derek Coleman, and Drazen Petrovic, and that's a trio that you'd go with. Just the skill sets of those played today. They played in, it's a skill set. You got a 3-point shooter, a point guard who is a pass first point guard, and a 6'10" guy who can do anything. What do you need me to do? I got it for you. So there's a whole, other world where that Jersey Nets team, becomes the team that's in there in the middle of the metropolitan area. And yeah. But Penny is which one of you would like to explain Penny, who is I guess for Sean will have to, because Kenny was lost for a second there. Uh Tell me why Penny.
Um, I think Penny would have him not getting hurt on something. Say that because that's the what if, right? Part of it. I we had Magic, who was about the height. He was a little heavier than Penny, but Penny had the ball in his hands a bunch, and he
Yeah.
was. I don't want to say magic because that's crazy, but he was, yeah.
You're not far off though. You're
No,
not far
no,
off.
but he
You're
was
really
amazing.
not.
He was amazing with the ball in his
Yeah,
hand.
he was.
He could get buckets whenever he wanted, and there was just no stopping him. Um, but he was also a good point guard. In the era where point guards were actually point guards, not none of this positionless basketball.
Yeah.
Um, you know, he made everybody better by having the ball on his court, on his hand, distributing, and like I said, he could get a bucket whenever he wanted, and he played defense, which is he could guard 3, possibly 4 positions depending on the other lineup. So
Penny,
My
anything you'd like to add? Hold on a second. Go ahead. Or
Rashad hit it right on the head. He was 6'7", a walking bucket, amazing ball handler. When I saw him play the first time in Memphis, I thought he was going to revolutionize the game. And if you notice that first season he was drafted by the Magic, they went from being like an A seed to all of a sudden they're competing for a conference championship. So he made that much of an impact on the team that already had Shaq, Dennis Scott, and Nick Anderson.
yeah,
So yeah, Penny's always going to be that what if.
right, and it also impacts because if he doesn't get hurt, does Shaq leave?
Very good point.
or does he sit around and just sit on that Disney money? Go ahead, Ed.
the thing about Penny is that he did make the NBA finals, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, someone please correct me. And he had, even in that short span, whether it was from a marketing perspective with the little Penny commercials, as well as making it to the NBA finals, he had a career that someone like JJ Redick would be envious of, or even a lot of athletes would love to have that one little stretch that he had. So he reached some point of success, both on a market level as well as on the court. And so do I feel like it's the what if is like how much further could he have gone considering the heights that he reached? Drazen, he was just it was just snuffed out. Like it's and that's a bigger mystery to me because he just
Okay.
started coming on with the Nets. You know, when he was with Portland, he was frustrated being on the bench. They weren't using him right, and
Mhm.
he finally found a place, a home where he can play his game, that Euro style of ball, with Kenny Anderson, with Derek Coleman. Which you know we talked about positional. That was kind of a positional team. That was a ahead of its time in a lot of ways, and so we never really got to see the scope of what Drazen could have been, as opposed to man, that guy reached a peak, a hell of a peak, and could have gone to a Zeus level, but he's already at a Hercules level. And so to me, it's why I got to go with Drazen.
Okay. Rashawn, Kenny, either one of you swayed to the Siberian assassin?
No,
Serbian,
Serbian,
he
I'm
was
sorry,
Serbian,
Serbian
yeah.
assassin, Serbian
But I
assassin.
think the point that we did see that glimpse from Penny, I think that left us wanting a whole lot more. And
and
that
Yeah.
goes that's what fed into the what if, like, if he doesn't get hurt, then this, and the third. But yeah. No, I
Mhm.
haven't been swayed to answer the question.
No, Kenny, still with Penny. Ed,
Same. I'm
I,
still rolling with Penny.
I just got one correction to make. I had to look it up because like these type of European blood feuds can get a person killed. He is Croatian, not
I
Serbian,
thought it
not
was. I thought it
Oh
Siberian. No,
yeah.
you yeah, he was
it was
Croatian. He
something,
was
but but I want to say it that in our ignorance of that time, I feel like he was
he
nicknamed
was
something like that.
Yugoslavian. He was Yugoslavian at the time because they had that was before the split. And actually, the documentary Two Brothers with it talks about the relationship of him and Vladi Divac and how because of the war in Yugoslavia they actually drifted
Mm.
apart. So yeah, no, it was like blood feud type of thing. Because if anyone remembers back in those days, if they were watching international hoops, it was Kukoc, Drazen, Dino Raja, and Vladi, that
Arvydas
Yugoslavian
Sabonis.
national team.
Yeah.
Sabonis was he was Ukrainian slash Russian, I believe,
Yeah.
depending
Yeah,
on what era of
you were just started talking about international and you started
yeah.
naming names and I
No,
was thinking that's another what if. It's like if
but
what if Arvidas is over here earlier and you just had no, but
yeah, that's a
Oh
good
yeah.
point.
He was here like
Yeah,
5 years earlier.
But
he'd
like
be
in a
like
lot of
Yeah.
when he
yeah,
had working knees.
Yeah.
yeah.
but
Basically
to the
that's it.
Yugos but
Good.
to add to the what if, it's like, yo, that was a dope international team. That was a dream team before a dream team came out there. And actually, the dream team kind of took it personal with some of those players. Let's not forget, Michael Jordan made it his mission to embarrass Tony Kukoc. And
Yeah.
so, like, there's that what if aspect of international ball.
I I
Those
I
guys all had successful careers
I
in the
I
NBA.
I've not finished the final season yet because I'm watching it and I'm like, yeah, I lived this. I remember all this stuff.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they do point out is that Jordan's petty. So he would have found something to nitpick at with
Yeah.
Tony Kukoc. Yeah,
Yeah.
he chose that, but it would have been something because it was that clearly is what that man is about. He was one of the greats. I'm gonna move on and just we'll concede Penny because he's got a 2-1 lead. One of the other second names that was you just need to see. We talked about Jordan. You don't need to know anything else by Jordan as being one of the best in his sport. Rice is the other one. Jerry Rice is it when it comes to wide receivers, but there were other wide receivers in the 1980s. So, of these four, which of these four was the best wide receivers of the 1980s, not named Jerry Rice? Steve Largent, Al Toon, Art Monk, or James Lofton? So clearly this is showing your age. So Ed, we'll start with you because the grade is showing enough. So who you got?
I don't know why Al Toon is on this list. It's Art Monk.
Okay, Kenny.
Steve Largent.
All right, Rashawn.
Yeah, I shaved my head to keep the gray out. Yeah, just so you know. I also went with Steve Largent.
All right. So that leaves you to Ed explain why it is Art Monk in your
Art
belief.
Monk, Art
'Cause-
Monk won a Super Bowl, 3 Super Bowls in the toughest division of the 1980s under 3 different quarterbacks. Any one of us could have been under center with that hog team, and Art Monk would have found the ball in the end zone. It didn't matter if it was Rippin, it didn't matter if it was Sonny Jurgensen, it just didn't matter who was back there. That man just had a nose for the football. I understand Steve Largen's got the stats, but Monk's got the rings.
Okay. Uh, Kenny, would you like to explain why he's wrong or?
Absolutely, it goes right back to the stats because when you hear about Jerry Rice when he was breaking every single record, usually the name that followed was since Steve Largent. So that's pretty much what it comes down to the stats that man had Jerry Rice not been born, we'd be singing Steve Largent's praises as the greatest wide receiver of all time.
Anything to add, Rashawn?
No, I mean he
That's
when
an
he
argument.
retired, he held like he said every record. Um, and that was when they were playing in the AFC. So I mean, they had to
Right.
go see the Steelers and the Raiders and stuff like that. But yeah, yeah, it's just stats. I mean, he just he had a Hall of Fame career. Um, it wasn't the fastest, wasn't anything, but every so often, 8, 9 times a game, there it
He
was,
was it.
catches.
Yeah, and it wasn't like he had the best quarterbacks throwing
I
to
was
him
No,
gonna say,
either. If
yeah.
I'm not
yeah,
mistaken, Jim Zorn
Jim
and
Zorn, yeah,
Dave Craig.
I was gonna say Dave Craig was out there for a second.
right,
Yeah,
Yep.
no. Yeah,
yeah,
because he was
yeah,
always and he was a Seahawk pretty much for life, if I remember correctly.
yes,
Yeah.
That's right.
yeah. Oh,
I
Noodles
don't,
himself out
I
there in
don't,
Seattle.
I don't even have Steve Largent in my top 5. I have Terrell Owens and Randy Moss ahead of him. Hell, I think Lofton is better than him. I think Lofton is grossly underrated. Sorry, and
I
has
agree with that.
four Super
I agree.
Bowls to his name. Now, granted the K Gun
Well,
and Jim Kelly to your point about the QB, but it's like I felt like Largent is great, but he's also kind of a stat pattern to a degree.
Well,
well,
I think part of that was he was the only option.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's funny because we put Super Bowls to individual players. Steve Largent wasn't good enough to win original games with Seattle, yet alone winning the playoffs or something like that. He's a wide receiver. He can't defend anybody. He's one part on one half of the side of it. So how is the Super Bowl related to him? Why does the Super Bowl matter? I get what you're saying with Art Monk that he does have the titles and he did win those and everything like that. But why is that important? That he won
because it
those games.
because it checks off not just it's not just the rings. He has records. It's not like he's some bum jabron that just
I'm
happens
not
to.
saying that,
I
but
know, I know you're not. But what I'm saying is, he has stats. He has rings. He has every major metric outside of like Steve Largent has. And again, I'm not trying to dismiss his career. It's just he checks up so many more other marks than Steve Largent did. And let's be honest. Look, Dave Drake Kirk is not a good quarterback. Neither was Warren. I don't think Mark Rippon was a good quarterback. I don't think. I'm blanking on the other guy's name. It wasn't Sonny
Doug
Jurgensen, but
Williams.
it's a Doug Williams. Doug Williams was a backup. No disrespect, first black quarterback
Yeah, he was.
in the
He
Super
was
Bowl,
he was
but
he
he
was a
was a
backup.
career backup. Like he
Yeah.
was Jeff Hostetler if you're a Giants fan, just
Mm.
better.
But
And so it's like he won a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback. Jay Schrader was the other
Ray
quarterback.
Schrader, that was the other guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, he made Theismann look good. He made Sonny Jurgensen look. He just had such a long career under so many bum quarterbacks, in my opinion. It's fair to say Mark Rippon was the best quarterback he had. And a lot of that had to do with the O-line being the most important unit on the team, to your point about the aspect. But it's just he checks off so many other marks besides having, that record that Steve Largent has, that I'm like, these intangibles to me put him above Largent.
Sean, Kenny, does that sweet either one of you?
Nah, it doesn't sway
uh,
me.
Now,
Yeah,
very passionate
Majority,
argument, but
very.
the majority then still has it. Um, I'm looking at the clock, but you know what? I think I can probably get because we were talking about shooters before. So the best late 20th century three-point shooter when that became a thing, when it truly it's well past a thing now. Everybody has, the Grayson Allen. Everybody is sitting in the corner shooting threes, but in the late 20th century is when it started to truly become a thing. So of the four to choose from are Jeff Hornacek, John Paxson, Mark Price, or Steve Kerr. Uh, Ed, who you got?
My heart says Mark Price, but it's Hornacek.
Rashawn,
I'm gonna say Mark Price.
Kenny,
Mark Price.
Ed,
We didn't talk
Hornacek.
about this beforehand,
Yeah,
Ed.
we did.
It's
It's
gonna.
just a
That's why I was saying
coincidence.
before. It's like, yeah,
I
they're
I
all.
think with Hornacek, it's just again a byproduct of being on a good team. The pick and roll with Stockton and Malone, it left him open when teams are locking down on both of them.
All these
Back
guys
then,
were open.
back then, no, but back then there was no zone defenses. So a lot of guys in today's era see open looks regardless because you see a lot of funky little zones. I think back then you had to play man to man, and he
Yeah,
just he had a knack for creating his own shot. I'm I can be swayed to Mark Price though, because God damn it, that man gets no respect. He really doesn't.
Yeah, we don't talk enough about him.
No.
He was an all-star before LeBron was like the legend. It was Brad Daugherty and Mark Price.
man.
He was a perpetual all-star. Always lost to the Bulls, always lost to Jordan's Bulls, Isaiah's Pistons, Bird's Celtics.
Okay.
He was a victim of his era. Whereas Hornacek, I think he gets a little bit pushed up because of the machine that he was, and that's okay. Part of being a great athlete is taking advantage of the chess pieces around you. And Hornacek absolutely did that, not just in Utah, in Phoenix. People forget he went to the finals with Phoenix as well. So
Yeah.
Kenny,
Right.
that Rashawn, that move you off of Mark Price.
It did. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It's fine.
I was going to say it didn't because if I'm not mistaken, Mark Price is also one of the few players that made the list of where he shot 50% from 50% field goal percentage, 40% from threes, and 90% from the free throw line. And he was an amazing player. And like Ed said, we don't talk enough about him. And that team probably could have gone further if the backcourt was Mark Price and Ron Harper instead of Mark Price and Craig Elo.
Yep.
But, for some reason, Lenny Wilkins thought it was a good idea to trade Ron Harper for the rights to Danny Ferry. So I'm sure that's a conversation for another day. But, yeah, that's why I'm going with Mark Price.
Well, that's as coach. That's how you win the most games and lose the most. Lose like that. Yeah, I fell in love with Mark Price doing the Lethal Weapon 3 days. Because they had a good run in the tournaments and through the ACC, which is of course not during that time, which was
Right.
a grind, right? But yeah, like you said, he ran into some teams that would be hard pressed. Anybody would be hard pressed to get through though that gauntlet of teams, and to have it almost like consecutive, like
Yeah.
Bird to Isaiah to Jordan. Like it was like
Wow.
And with
can't
the
skip it.
Lakers waiting at the end of it or
Right.
something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's a good run. And is
you know
that
what? Yeah,
I mean,
you know what? It sways me because it's I was torn between the two and it sways me. And I kind of talked myself as well. Both of your point. Actually, that point about that's bananas, how many free throws and threes and like that's not stat padding, that's work, especially in that era
Exactly.
of one-on-one defense. And to that point about that, he had to bump into generational teams in the Celtics, Pistons, and Bulls. And it reminded me that, like, man, imagine if Patrick Ewing had someone like Mark Price as his point guard. You know what I mean? Brad
Yeah,
Daugherty was no slouch. Let's not disrespect Brad Daugherty.
at
No, he wasn't
all.
Patrick Ewing. He
That man
wasn't
was
Patrick Ewing. He wasn't
he
Patrick
wasn't
Ewing at
Pat
that
Ewing.
point.
And man, but I'm just thinking if I could take Pat Ewing with like Mark Price in either Cleveland or New York, man, like you know
Huh?
what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's he just because even the Knicks were good back then. So was the Pacers. Like even the second tier teams, the Hawks had
Hawks.
Oh,
Dominique
the
Wilkins.
Hawks
Yeah,
were, yeah.
Like
yeah.
like the Hawks. I mean, yeah, they had John Concac, but yo, they had Neek. Like like Neek was carrying bums like John Concac and a bunch of other plumbers. So like you know what, y'all between y'all and myself babbling, I've talked myself into.
All right, we'll close here with the trivia question, and since we started with Major League, we can end with the minor leagues and another fictional catcher that gets way more love than Jake Taylor, Crash Davis. Uh, Crash Davis or Kevin Costner, he never reaches the pros, but he does finish with Susan Sarandon, and it's a younger Susan Sarandon. It's not Clue Susan Sarandon, but she's around there. But he also ends apparently with the all-time minor league home run title. How many home runs did Crash Davis hit? Is the number I'm looking for. Kenny?
I'm gonna say let's say 415.
415. Ed?
Wait, career or for the season? I'm sorry.
It
I've
it
never seen the
it
movie, by the way.
okay. Never seen
Wow.
Bull Durham. All right.
Yeah, Bull
Um,
Durham is a classic.
well, in Bull Durham, Kevin Costner plays a minor league catcher, and he apparently, according to Susan Sarandon, breaks the all-time minor league home run record. How
Okay,
many
so
home runs did she think he hit?
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with 330 home runs.
Never
It's the
seen Bull Durham.
minors.
Wow. Rashad, go ahead. What you got?
um, I'm gonna price this right, Kenny, and go 500.
All right.
500. All right. Well, the trivia answer will be in the description for the next episode. I'd like to thank all of the scholars for participating in class today. I hope you each find your way home safely. The same sentiment to each and any of the listeners. Safe travels from the terminal and good night.